Welcome to another Terranscapes video. This video shows a recently completed custom project, which was a custom finish for the Games Workshop's Citadel modular battle boards. And this customer wanted a snow finish on their board set, and also wanted to add to the set a set of the buttes which I produce, but finished to match the boards. Very quickly about how this was done. So this is Woodland Scenics Snow, and it was applied in several consecutive layers with a sealant in between each layer. One of the things I discovered is that the Woodland Scenic Snow is very hydrophobic, meaning it's very hard to wet, which is kind of counterintuitive to the products since they say to spray it down to seal it. But if you spray it down too aggressively, you begin to get texturing in it that deforms the natural look of the snow. Now, one of the nice things about snow is that it can take many forms, so that you're granted some flexibility in terms of the actual finish that it produces. And of course, being white against in this photo, it's going to be hard to see the actual texture of it. But I tried to go for a very even finish, and to raise up very slightly deeper areas so that they sit just a little bit above. But you know, really, this is almost an imperceptible slope. But to try to thicken it to give it that nice, pure, deep white. One of the things that I wanted to avoid, however, in the set is that uniform white blanket look that people often do when they do snow, as it's very what's what I'm looking for? It's very monotonous, and so I wanted to break that up and to try to preserve some of the interesting features of the board set, such as preserving the stone walkway here. A bit of the the stone walkway over here. So you can see that in the photo. There you go. Also to get some of that nice contrast of the cliffs, so that you get the white top with the darker sides. And also I wanted to try something new with the water features. Well, they're not water features really, but they're the skull patches on the board. Now, normally in the past I've been filling these in with a murky green resin. Excuse me, to represent water, sort of stagnant water, etc., with the skulls poking through. This time I wanted to do frozen ice, and I haven't done frozen ice before, so this was a bit of a stretch in terms of how my abilities and how to get that done, and it came out really well, and for reasons which I didn't entirely expect, actually. So what I did is I filled it with a blue resin, a lightly tinted blue-white resin. And that was actually transparent at that time, so you could see them, and highly glossy, which really doesn't represent what ice is. To me, ice, in a particularly cold environment, excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold today, particularly icy environment, is usually has a dull top, a very matte finish almost, if you will. So what I did then is, in the application of the snow, a bit of the snow would drift over. Of course, this would get sprayed with the acrylic sealer, and then with a PVA glue watered down, basically. And then that would produce a matte finish, which dulled it, sealed the snow to it, so that the snow is floating on top, and really gave a very nice impression that this is a frozen body of water trapped underneath. One of the downsides, though, is that it did obscure most of the skulls. There's a couple just barely poking through, but really, I think it's an improvement on the overall. If I had left the skulls open, for instance, you wouldn't get any kind of ice variation, which helps to really tie in the snow look and make it a little bit more believable. And you'd end up with a lot of snow accumulating inside here, and I think it would be difficult to model that properly. So I opted with the frozen water look, and I think it really got that perfect look of ice where it thins out. If things are very close to the surface, you can see them, but then quickly fades out to a very opaque, sort of muted haze, I think is the best way to describe that. Lastly, for the board set, of course, I finished the buttes in a matching color scheme to the boards, which was requested to be a very charcoal gray, and then snowed them down as well to match. And because of their nice cuts that they have all along the way, they really pick up those little snow bits in the corners and in the creases, and it really gives it a nice natural look. So they really came out quite well, and I hadn't really considered finishing these in any different kind of a color scheme since I've created them, so it was nice to have an excuse to present them in a different style so that people could get a sense of some of the flexibility that they offer rather than just accompanying the Martian Butte set on the Martian modular boards. If I were to say one thing that makes this project particularly difficult, it's that it's very difficult to get a nice deep white snow that fades before it gets to the edge, yet preserves a uniform look. So if you look, you can see a bit of a square patchiness in the snow patches. And this is largely because if I fade the snow to the edge, here's an example where it did get pretty close. If it fades to the edge and it doesn't exactly match on the other side, you get a bit of a visual line. And part of this is exacerbated by the fact that the boards are so dark and the snow is so bright, any kind of gradation error is going to be quite visible. One of the nice things, however, is that by adding in the buttes, you can drop them in on some areas that maybe look a little bit unmatched, and they kind of break that up visually. So that when you pan back and take a look at it, it helps to separate that out a little bit and sort of breaks up that look. And of course, this is without any models, or when you have a couple armies on here, that's also going to smooth that out for transition for the eye. But I try to be honest about where the strengths lie for my techniques and where areas that need improvement. I think, at least according to my needs, of course to my demands, areas that can be improved in the future. But it's quite challenging. Here's an example of a nice transition where it fades right to the edge and then picks up on the next board. And but that's very hard to do with a modular set where boards can be rotated 360 degrees and matched up to any one of the other, well, let's see, 4 times 5, other 30 sides. Oh wait, 20 sides, I should say. So difficult to make that uniform all the way across. One of the challenges with doing a snow feature. I have not seen any snow features done on any of the Citadel battleboard sets, quite frankly on any modular sets. So this is a bit of a unique project for me, and a unique project perhaps out there. So hopefully it'll inspire others and give you another idea about some of the work that Terranscapes can do for you for custom work. Once again, no custom work projects won't be accepted until the new year, so you'll have to wait and see some of the more projects that I have lined up come out in future videos. So I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to see close-up photos of this set in the future, you should visit Terranscapes.com, and at Terranscapes.com you can see this project as well as other Citadel boards that I've finished, as well as other custom terrain that I have done in the past. Terranscapes.com.